Hey everyone, welcome back to Papa's Workshop. Today we're going to be talking about the brand new Elegoo Neptune 4 and the Neptune 4 Pro. Now these machines are similar yet different. We're going to talk about the differences and we're going to see which one would be the best for you in your situation. Now the first thing I want to talk about on the Neptune Pro 3D printer is the fact that it's going to be much faster and more efficient than what you've dealt with in the past. It features a quiet Kepler motherboard and the ARM 64-bit 1.5G main frequency quad-core processor for sufficient processing power. Now that allows it to print at some amazing speeds. Now they say it can print at 500 millimeters per second. Now that's not recommended though. It's actually recommended to be down at the 250 millimeters per second. There's an 8 gigabyte RAM that can store many of the different models so that you can have quick access when you're ready to start printing. Now that's a major upgrade and I'm very impressed with that. The other thing that it has is a dual gear direct drive extruder. Now this dual gear direct drive extruder with a 5.2 to 1 reduction ratio for smooth and consistent extrusion, combined with a copper titanium bimetal throat pipe and unique air duct design. It improves the heat dissipation and reduces the nozzle clogging. All those are some important improvements that they have been able to make. In addition, you're going to find the auto leveling feature that's on both of these machines, and that actually is nice. And you can adjust manually if you need to with the knobs underneath to be able to dial it in very precise to begin with, and then use the auto leveling to do that fine detail. The Elegoo Neptune 4 features an intelligent segmented heated bed, and that's new. This hot bed can be set to 100 watts. It'll heat only the center area, and that's about 120 millimeters by 120 millimeters, making it ideal for the smaller models that you have. For the larger models, the heat bed can be set to the 250 watts, and that will heat the entire surface. Now these fans that you see that's been added, they allow for that hot filament to be able to bond quickly for better overhang and for better bridging, which will result in a faster print speed, preventing issues like the warping and the deformation. Now this printer also can resume printing after, let's say you lose power. In my area, that happens quite a bit. So if you lose power, you can start back with the recovery function and start right back to where you were. The filament detector sensor, when the filament runs out or breaks, the printer will pause and it'll sound the alarm. And I'm going to show that to you as we go through this video. Now this also supports the LAN network printing, and once connected you can use any web terminal to remote control and monitor your printer on the same network. To get into the assembly process now, I want to take a look at this. The bed on this Neptune 4 Pro actually was not level, and you can see that it's almost 1/8 of an inch out of level just sitting on a flat table. Now this is actually an easy fix, but it's something that should have been caught at the factory. Just loosen these 2 screws on this side and the same 2 screws on the other side, and by loosening those you can actually push down on the bed and get this back flat. Now this is a minor inconvenience, and quite frankly I've never seen it before, but this is a very easy fix. The next thing I want you to check. On the back of the machine you have the selector switch for 230 volts or 115 volts. Please make sure that that is set correctly for the area where you're located. In my area, 115 volts. At the time of the publishing of this video, the Neptune 4 and the Neptune 4 Pro are available for pre-sales. The price, $259 and $299 respectively. The USB thumb drive that comes with the machine contains the instruction manual, and it lists here all of the parameters, all the instructions to be able to set up this machine and get it assembled. All the necessary information that you're going to need is contained on this thumb drive. When you're assembling the Neptune 4 Pro, you will have to put on the print head. Now there's 4 pre-installed little threaded inserts that you'll need to be able to put the screws in to mount this. Very simple, straightforward, but this is not going to be the same on the Neptune 4. It's pre-assembled. Now this cable bracket also is mounted at the same time. You're using the same screws. You just put the two screws in the bracket, that's the easiest way, and then slide them right between the two wheels into those holes. Looking at it from the other side, you can see the two screws sticking through this plate, but you also have to remove this zip tie before you can put the print head on. So I'll just take the cutters, snip that, pull it out, and we're ready to mount the print head. I'm going step by step on how to put this printer together, but quite frankly, it's easy to put together in about 10, maybe 15 minutes tops. Looking at the back of the printer head, to be able to align these screws and those threaded inserts, it's very simple. You can easily see exactly what you're going to be doing. And then just tighten up the screws. Remember, there's 4 screws on that back side. Now flipping back around to the front side, you have 2 screws here that you're going to be inserting the cover with. And that just literally slides on, put the 2 screws in, and it doesn't get much easier than that. I find that it's much easier to be able to lay this down on its back, to be able to tighten the screws and put those in. It's just easy to be able to work with. All the packages are clearly labeled as to exactly what screws and what you need for each step of the operation. To make it even easier, you have this little cutout right there so that the upright will just drop right into that slot. And of course you have that on each side. The 2 screws will go into there. And I find that it's easiest just to be able to turn the bed over on its side, and that makes being able to put in these 4 screws very easy. And there's no adjustments needed. This is very precisely done. It fits directly into the slots and the screws fit without any problems. Next it's time to put in the plate to be able to hold the control pad. You have 3 holes there that are threaded and ready to accept the screws. Now this plate is magnetic, and I find it much easier to put that bottom left screw in first. Now this is the packet of the screws that you're going to be using. Again, everything is clearly labeled and ready to go. This is where I put that first screw in on that bottom left side. And I also find it's much easier if you will loosely screw in these screws. Do not try to do one at a time. Just barely tighten this screw in and then put the other 2 in. Once you have all 3 in place, then tighten them. Don't try to do it just one at a time. It's going to really complicate the process and you're going to get frustrated trying to get these screws in place. Now it's time to attach the control pad, and I'm going to go ahead and take off this cover. This is magnetic, so this will just drop right in place, and this will plug in on the front of the machine. This will plug in right here. Next it's time to install the spool holder, and there's 2 holes right here that it's going to be mounted, and there's 2 pre-installed T-nuts. And all we need to do is use these M4 by 18s. Just drop that right there and it'll screw in position. And we'll just slide it over until it's aligned with the other T-nut. To align this in the center, because these screws are loose, we can just slide it over. We'll just center it on the logo and then tighten it down. The filament detector is next. That goes with the little threaded insert right here. Again, the screw and the filament detector is in a separate bag. And next we'll just screw this into position. This is the cable bracket that needs to be mounted, and also you need to take the cable for the fan, slip it in first. I find that's much easier, and then take the other cable and put it on top of the cable for the fan. And it will just slip right into its place. You'll have to bend this larger cable just a little bit to be able to have the screw go into the hole that's provided there. I'm going to set it out here because I don't want it hitting this screw. Now this is sitting on the outermost hole, and that little tab will make it where it will not come in and hit the lead screw. So that will be very good right there. This is new on the Neptune 4. This has the fan, and it gets mounted in, and you can see where the air will come out and actually cool your bed as you're printing. You have 3 holes here, and we're going to use screws that'll go into these 3 locations. I'm using these 3 screws. It's the M4 by 45 to be able to mount this fan. The 3 holes are right here. All I want to do is just get it started, and I'll continue by putting the second one in. And now the third one will be easy to get in. With this completed, let's start connecting all of the cables now. I'm going to start with the filament detector, and this is the cable that will go in here. All right, and then we have the fan. These little tabs will open up. You also have a little slot right here that matches the slot on the back side. And as you push that in place, you see those little tabs come back and locks that cable into position. All right, we have 2 wires here. We have one that will go to the limit switch that will plug in right here. The other one goes to the stepper motor. This is underneath, so you can see where the cable plugs into the stepper motor. And this cable will plug in right here. This is the Z-axis. There we go. And now we'll work on this side over here. First one I'm going to plug in is the Z-axis on this side. We'll plug it in right here. And we have 2 left. This one plugs in here. Now these plugs are different sizes, so it makes it very easy to be able to identify them. And that takes care of the wiring. And the machine is completely assembled, but before you turn it on for the first time, please make sure that you adjust the power to be able to get the voltage correct. In my area, 115 is what I use. In other parts of the world, that needs to be set at 230. So please make sure the voltage is correct, and that switch is located on the back of the machine. It's time to turn the machine on for the first time. First thing I want to do is go through the auto leveling, and I'll hit this as the automatic setting, and then it will go through the routine. This process does not take a long time, but it will go through all 36 of the points, and you can see the progression on the control pad here as it moves from one point to another. Now, I've also found that this process is not necessary every time you turn on the machine. That bed is not going to get out of level. The next thing you want to do is load the filament. As you're loading the filament, you'll see the old filament that was in there from the test at the factory, and then the new filament is coming through the extruder. I put the USB thumb drive into the slot, and this thumb drive is provided by the Elegoo, and now you can see the different models. I'll select a model, and I have the little planter that will be able to print out, and this will give you a graphic representation of what it will look like, and it'll take about 2 hours and 10 minutes to be able to print. So I went ahead and started printing this with the provided filament that came with the machine, which is just a little small amount of filament. While this is printing, I want to assemble the Neptune 4. Now, I'm not going to show step by step because the procedure is virtually identical, but I will tell you this: it took a grand total of about 10 minutes to be able to assemble this machine from start to finish without having to deal with setting up and moving the cameras. One of the differences is you have the two threaded inserts to be able to put in the filament holder. One of the things that I really like about the Elegoo printers is that all the cables are literally pre-run. You don't have to do any of that. Literally, as you assemble the machine, you can just plug the cable in and there's no wires to run. That makes it so easy and speeds up the assembly operation. Everything has been well thought out. The cables are the right length. And now I have both machines put together, the Neptune 4 on the right and the Neptune 4 Pro on the left. Now with each of the printers, you get a very small amount of white PLA. And you can see that we're almost running out. So clearly there is not enough PLA to be able to print out this little planter as one of the test models. So it's time to be able to test out the filament detector and see how it works. I'm going to take the second little small spool of the filament. We'll throw that onto the machine. I know it's not typical to change the filament multiple times, but that's what I want to do with this test. So I've changed it once, and this is a second little spool of the white PLA. When the filament detector detects that the filament is no longer there, it actually pauses the machine. The print head moves to the bottom left-hand corner, and then I can actually take and put in the new filament. I'm going to use this filament to test the model, and it is purple, green, and copper color. This is a beautiful, beautiful filament, and we can play around and do a test with this filament on our test subject. So I've now run the new filament through my filament detector, and I need to remove the old filament and just release it, pull it out, and then I can put the new one in and go through the load process and put it into the position and then start to print again. And at this point, I've got the white PLA that was provided by the Elegoo, and now I'm starting to be able to print out with the new multicolored filament. I want to show you a close-up of this project because this is the third time now I've changed the filament printing out this little small printer. And you can see that the adhesion on this printer is literally perfect. I have one little bitty string of the filament on the back side, but that's going to easily be able to clip off. So being able to make the transition from the different filaments is not a problem. I think this little project turned out to be absolutely beautiful, and it was a fun experimenting to be able to test out being able to replace the filament 3 different times on this little project. Thank you for watching today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video real soon.